I'm Amanda with Maestro Music Therapy.
Hi, I'm Tony with Expressive Therapies Utah.
And we are going to talk today about music therapy and music's role with adolescents. So maybe, do you want to just kind of start off with sort of describing music therapy in adolescent treatment?
Well, the way, I think with my experience, probably more so than any population that I get a chance to work with, like, music is so profound for adolescents. I mean, it's the way that, it seems to be the way that they talk with one another, they talk about themselves. It's such a huge part of identity formation in the way that they connect with what's said in the music, the artists, the genres, other people. And it's such a wonderful and unique way, I think, of really hearing them in a way that they also feel heard and connected. So I think with music therapy and the different ways that we use music, receptive experiences are a really big part of the adolescent culture. I mean, they really love to share music with one another and witness with one another and be validated and witnessed. And also creating music, though. I mean, they're really, it's fun to watch at this age, that the way that they're, first coming into their own self as far as expressive beings in the creative process in that way, and then the way that they support each other, in those moments. So yeah. I don't know, did that answer?
Yeah.
What about for you? Like, what are some of your experiences?
Well, I think about music in the teenage years, and for myself, it was music was used for me in multiple different ways. It was used as a way to kind of explore my peer relationships and connections with peers, and I would find myself like kind of pretending that I would be into certain music just to kind of fit in with my peers, but then also like really strongly connecting with music that was part of, like you said, part of forming my identity and validating my identity at the time. And I throughout the time that I've worked with teenagers, I've seen kids say, if you don't like my music, you're telling me that you don't like me.
That is such a great thing that you bring up, because we see this often in, I think, the work that we provide in different facilities. There's often these very how do I want to put it without being too crass? These very strict guidelines as far as the way that music, like there's this cultural, they call it counterculture. Sometimes I hear this often about the kinds of music that is allowed or is not allowed. For the most part, when we really get a chance to educate administrators, there's a freedom to use music as we need to use music in music therapy. Not outside of music therapy, but within music therapy. But this idea that labeling music often as inappropriate, just like you said, tends to send a message that I'm inappropriate.
Right.
But we also have to be realistic about the healthy and unhealthy relationships that individuals have with music. And when individuals are in a delicate, place with themselves emotionally and things like that, sometimes just reviewing the way that they're using music is really important, like these guidelines that we have. And I think it's also a different thing, to consider when you're having a one-to-one session versus when we're sharing music in a group, because it's not just how it impacts us, but it's how it impacts everybody in the group. But in those moments too, you see adolescents really showing empathy in that. Like, they understand that they may be connecting on a different level on a song that's pretty graphic or has some strong content, but they understand that they may have a peer who's pretty raw right now, and that's not necessarily the best moment for them to be experiencing that type of music. So again, you see like this incredible tolerance for one another, in a really intolerant society right now, where I just am so, I don't know, I get a chance, I think, to see just so much hope for the future, because you just see the way that they support each other. And after somebody shares a song, sometimes I say, for how many of you is this the first time you heard it? And I can't believe, like, how many, like, first time. and just this discussion about what they got from that, and again, the support, for different genres, and just, I don't know.
So what do you feel like you would want parents of teenagers who are maybe concerned about the music that their child is listening to, what would you want them to know?
Ideally,
as a music therapist. Yeah.
Ideally. And it's a hard one, because I know that, a lot of parents, there's very strict guidelines that, they want to see. But I think to hear first, right? And at least this is the way that I approach this, is like, what is the individual hearing? What is their relationship with that first? I want to know that first before I make some kind of a determination on what's best for them. I mean, I don't do that. I like what's best for them. But and I want to have a discussion. Like, I think being able to sit down and really have a discussion, and tell me about this music for you. Like, what do you get from that for yourself? I think is, really paramount. I can just share, like, with my own teenage son, my youngest, he used to, when I traveled to school, he used to just, I think, kind of for shock and awe a little bit, like, play some rap, some different kinds of music that he thinks I didn't know about, but I had known about it. And it was just like him exploring, like, these different boundaries, I think, for himself. And then as he got older, he kind of fine-tuned that for himself, like what he felt was right for him, and was just open to a lot of different music I'd share too. So I think I'd want to hear first. I want to understand what the music is about for them.
I think you make a really good point with that music changes throughout your life, right? What you're connecting to, and I think a lot of times, we see with kids that we work with that the healthier that they become, the music that they are connecting to shifts.
Sometimes that is so true. Yeah. And then I've met some who made it a career.
Yeah.
They got into some hardcore stuff when they were young, and that's what they, they're still into. But I have seen that in recovery, though, too, with adults who, like, the music that they liked when they were younger, maybe supported and validated something that was going on for them. And as they went through their own recovery, the music was still important. And you see this with teens, as you see this with everybody who kind of, sometimes music that's connected to a really difficult part in your life, how they will play it at a different space in their, a different time in their life, to look back and see how they respond to that. It's like holding those emotions safely in that 3.5 minutes, and for them to really reflect on that whole time. If you have to think about all the memories, like, to just elicit that memory, all the things you have to trigger in your brain, like sounds and smells and all kinds of things, and just to walk through that time in that, like I said, like that 3.5 minute period, and just reflect on, like, where am I? And for the most part, people really are able to see the growth that they made, and from one time to another, and then how did I get to that space, and just reflecting on movement, literally. And also in that space too, the way that they can see that they're holding emotions in a different way, in a healthier way, or tolerating even.
Right. Yeah. So talk a little bit about the role of music therapy in terms of more active live music. Yeah.
I love, right, and you've seen this, like, kids who, like, every week they're bringing in their guitar and their amp, right? Like, I don't know what everybody else is doing, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's so important to honor that. Like, you brought that in. Let's make some music. Let's do it. And I think that too, modeling that for their peers too, and they want to do that. They want to support that. The thing with making music that I find, and I'm sure it is not an instant gratification. Where it's going to take some time. You think about all the things that it takes to make a band work together, right? And the problem solving, the way that teens have to, or anybody, they have to problem solve that, and they have to cooperate, and you have to listen to one another and respond to one another, and this balance, and this give and take in the roles, and the tolerance for self, and the patience for yourself as you're learning something. It's a lot. But again, if you think about how this I think just, you know, outside of what it holds in other areas of life, but just like for the musical self is creativity. I mean, we have to be creative and spontaneous and improvise like all the freaking time in life. And when they're in that space and they're, man, look what we did in 50 minutes and an hour and a half, whatever, you know, and all the other possibilities that opens up. And just even, again, like, I'm not a behavioralist, but just like all of the neurological things that it takes, the coordination and again, just the neurochemical releases that are happening, you know, for individuals. So it takes some time, but the outcome is so profound when you're actually the captain of your own creative ship, you know?
Yes.
What am I trying to do? What is the tricky? What is that tricky thing? But thank you. Thank you. We've been talking about Star Trek. But yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's your. I feel like that's, you know, like songwriting and all. That's your, like, so many things that are your forte. But what's your thought on that?
Well, I think about just the act of creating something that hasn't existed before. Is so powerful for anybody. But, you know, thinking about teenagers and the day-to-day experience that they have, that owning something that is so unique, that it's powerful. It's
and they have to be vulnerable. They have to be willing to be vulnerable, and you know, and they're taking a safe risk too. And teens love to take risks, right? And so to like jump off of this musical cliff with other people and explore that is a cool thing to see. You know, it's really.
So, as a music therapist, what do you think are kind of the common pitfalls for other music therapists that are working with adolescents?
Pitfalls meaning, well, I think one of the challenges, because I don't know if I'd say because working with them is awesome. I think it feels like everybody kind of wants to work with adolescents, but then you get into work, right? Like, why? But they're, you know, but I think your skills have to be, your chops have to be pretty decent because they will challenge you on all levels of genres, right? And it's important for them to be able to trust you, but at the same time, they want to be. They want to be the leader. They want to be the captain. You know, they want to show you what's going on. And like, show me, that's good. You know, like for sure. So I think just being able to meet them in any direction that they want to go musically is important. You know, in the live music making, and then in the receptive parts of things is understanding your own relationship with music, so that you're very aware of responses and how you can deal and cope with, you know, those responses yourself, but also being able to set healthy boundaries that aren't feeling oppressive to them, but at the same time validating why those structures or why those guidelines, I like to call them, might be in place and for the way that we share music with one another.
Yeah, I think what I've seen is exactly that, like that. And I've experienced this myself too, you know, trying to navigate sessions, trying to find that balance between the structure and boundaries that they need and that openness and flexibility to validate whatever comes up in the moment and to be able to go wherever wherever the group or individual needs to go.
That's a tough one too, because if you got, I mean, I always try to advocate for smaller groups. You know, 6 to 8 is really great, but you know, facilities like want to get as many kids in there as possible, which is so difficult, and not just teens. I mean, you see this across the board in mental health. Like, let's get a bunch of people in that group. But you have kids who really, I think, understand more than we give them credit for their relationship with music and how it impacts them. Like, you talk to kids all the time, and they're like, if I had an iPod for 20 minutes, I'd be okay. Right. And we just sound like, no, you wouldn't be. I mean, that's not me. I do believe that. But you know what I'm saying? We're not listening to like, this is my drug of choice, my music. Let me, give me a moment. So when you got a big group of teens, there are people who are like, I really want to be heard today. I want to be heard, and I know exactly how I want you to hear me. Mm-hmm. And then there's kids like, I know how I want to be heard today. I really want, and so trying to find this balance between what, all of those things can be a challenge. But if you can make it work, then I think they find a way to be heard and hear each other.
So this can be a very controversial subject, but I'm curious your thoughts on censorship in music therapy with teens specifically. Yeah.
Why would I censor it when they don't censor it? I mean, I know why. The expectations for why. There's some. This is where we talk about guidelines. That there's some things that we ask them to be mindful of. If for some reason we are going against the we're going counterculture of the facility, but really even when you're saying like whose culture are we talking about, that becomes very odd. Again, when you have a variety of different people coming into this space, and you're saying, I want you to listen to music according to this particular cultural rule. I think, So. Again, I think if you lay out some specific guidelines, and for me they generally are, nothing that is misogynistic, homophobic, racist, those kind of things, and we talk about why, and then nothing that, and again, in a one-to-one session, this is very different than in a group setting. In a one-to-one session, I don't have any censorship. We talk the way that we need to talk. I mean, we're asking kids all the time, talk to me, and they're saying, okay, I want to listen to me, and I go, not that way. I don't want to hear you that way. I want to hear you within this perimeter. Right. Talk to me this way, right? But within a group, again, it's about being mindful of how that impacts everybody. So, and then like just graphic, really graphic or detailed. Sometimes kids are dealing with things related to self-harm or really intense abuse issues. And again, but if there are songs that do have that very emotionally charged feel, and that there's a place and a time, it says what it needs to say. We really want to be able to validate this person's life story as they're telling it through the music, and it's something that we talk about within the group. The individual, for them, because there's a sense of trust in the group, right? And the individual will talk about why I want to tell this, I want to share this song because for me, and this is what it holds for them. And then how does everybody in the group feel? Like, bring it for the most part. But if somebody's like, just today is not a good day for that, I've never had anybody, I've never had that be an issue when somebody was saying that. So we try to make sure everybody's just, all on board for that. I cannot tell you, like, in how many years that I've been doing this, how rarely I hear the same song twice.
Yeah.
It's amazing what they're finding. And the maturity of the music is incredible. Like, I'm just, like, blown away by what they're bringing, not only in the receptive, but what they'll share live. Like, when we do song sharing, it can be recorded, but how many times it's like, oh, I got this song I want to share, and they're playing it live, and it's just like, both ways, it's just so stunning. So again, I mean, I think music therapists are often up against this criteria that is set by the facilities that they work with. Like, you may not do X, Y, or Z, but a part of that is like educating the administrators as to why and how. Yeah. And I think that does come from advanced training, though, like, and how music therapists can really effectively and safely, because it does have to be safe. Yes. They gotta be safe. You gotta be safe. Staff has to be safe, because these kids, for the most part, I mean, depending on where you're at, but I think regardless, they're gonna leave your session. They gotta function, right? And the real therapy comes after the sessions and how they interact with the rest of the world and family and friends and others themselves, right? So, you gotta make sure they can leave and keep moving forward. So you have to be, if you're going to go there, you have to be able to bring them into that space where, okay, they're still okay. I mean, when you're in an inpatient facility, you have some luxuries of, you know, keeping that open and continuing to work on that through the day. But if you're like in an outpatient setting, then not so much. You know, you really got to be mindful of what that's about. So, you know, and I think for any entry-level professional, I would never recommend them just playing any music that they haven't heard before, you know.
Right.
But I feel like as I've gotten more experience with this, like really, even in the title of the song, or some, you know, knowing the artist. Tell me a little bit like what this is bringing for you today. What do you hope? What's your intention behind sharing this today? And again, like when you've built that trust in the group, if you say, tell me a little bit about the explicit content. What are we looking at here? Right. And for the most part, teens, because they honor that experience that they're having, and they do want to. They don't want to blow it. They want to be able to continue to express that way. They'll tell you what's up, and if you talk a little bit more and you just say, you know, I wonder about today, if I'd be more than happy to talk with you more one-on-one, but what about for group if we find something else? Again, like I've not had anybody just blow over that.
Yeah.
But they've also let me know, like something's up with me today and I need to talk about this. Because then when they bring in something like just super hardcore like that, you know, it's sometimes these these little cues that.
But you also do such an incredible job with the teens that you work with in building that rapport and making sure that they know that you honor and validate the music that they're listening to. So when you say in a session, maybe not today, let's choose something else. It doesn't, I would guess for these teens, it doesn't feel like you're saying, absolutely not.
And sometimes I'm not saying absolutely not. I'm saying, can you give me a chance to like take a look at this one first? And then I just want to get a feel for it. And then can we come back to it next week? You know? But again, yeah. And I mean, I've had it go twice bad on me.
Really?
Yeah, really bad.
Only twice?
Yeah. But enough that I'm like, that's not it. That's not it. But enough that I'm like, you know, like I'm calling for supervision, you know, because it just like it scares the shit out of you, you know, just like, whoa, where did I totally miss that was? And when I say going bad, one time it was not the clients, it was the staff, and
like their reaction to it.
It was the staff reaction. Actually, both times it was the staff reaction. One time I did have a reaction with a kiddo, but I don't think there was anything we could have done because the song wasn't that. She was in a PTSD place, but you know, we were able to use music like right in that moment, like to bring her out of it. But it's been more staff related. It's been staff related and not team related.
So that's a really important consideration as the music therapist. You have to be thinking about everyone.
You have to think about everyone because one, you never want to staff split the kids in the staff ever. So. What the facilities I work with have really gotten to this place is putting staff in there that are open to the music that the kids like. Because there were really some people who have moral compasses for themselves that just they feel really uncomfortable. Right? And that's not their job to feel comfortable, right? If they don't, so for them to be able to set those boundaries, that's my job to be in that space with them. And I totally sign up for that. So they've been cool with, you know, putting in people. And actually that is so validating for the kids too, because when the staff interacts in that way with us, like all of us together, it's like this thing that they're taking out of group too, like, you know this part about me in that way as well. So, So, but you know, we're not there to keep them from emotions. Like that's not what the point of music is. Like everybody, you know, when they need to talk about really intense things, suicide and depression and abuse and drug use and like these ways that they can be validated through that, you find are really often just this huge relief and release for them. And then oftentimes they're following up with music that is their their go-to when they want to be in this like joyous space, or just seem like more free and in a different mood state, you know. So again, like watching this continue, or it could be like through playing again, you know, like I'm going to tell my story this way, and then it leads into other ways for them to tell their story, like create their own music for that, create their own group song for that, or just improv, or just jam it out, that excessive energy or whatever. So
it almost feels like steering into a skid when you're on ice.
Ooh.
You know, like you go with it so that you can
not go against it.
Yeah,
you know, because there's this tendency when kids start to talk, or anybody talk about something, I see this often, is, well, how are you going to cope with that? How are you? I don't want to really hear about it.
Right.
But how are you going to cope with it and get out of it? And get out, like you're saying, like, and
You're
they're looking at you like,
yeah,
really? Yeah.
And you know, I think if people really think about, you know, just their own experience talking to somebody who does something like that to them, and how that makes you feel, like, I just want you to hear me out and just let me share this with you, right? Don't talk to me how I'm coping with it.
How many times though, after hearing something, that's just your reaction too, like,
I'm done.
Like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even. Right? There's just nothing really to say after that.
Yeah.
After that music experience. Yeah. It's just it said it all. It said so much.
Yeah.
And sometimes they want to talk more about it, and sometimes there's just that silence. It's just like, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, music.
Crazy.
What else?
Make sure you're doing your own self-care when you're working with adolescents.
Yes.
Because they bring you a lot of stuff. Bring you a lot of stuff, and so it's a beautiful journey, though. It's a beautiful journey.